First thing, happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody, those of you that haven't heard our little banter over here. The other thing we always do at the Board of Ed, but would like to do it over here, is just say the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have Kathleen Herbert lead the troops. Kathleen, you want to start it?
Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States
the
of
States of
America,
America,
to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Here we go.
And I always want to say amen at the end of it.
Jason thought that you were going to ask me to sing the anthem.
Amy, I was going to, but I'll let you off on that one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
There's a little joke with that, because when Amy had her selectmen's meeting, I was typing in there, what? An official government meeting with no pledge of allegiance. So her husband said, we're gonna have her sing the national anthem next time. All right, so we have a couple of agenda points, and thank you very much, Brian and Tara, for joining the call tonight. Appreciate that.
Yep.
And we also appreciate you compiling all the responses, which is very useful. Let's start with the first agenda item, which is Bill Birch giving us an update on the windows and see where we're at. Bill?
Okay, so we've already taken care of that issue with the sprinkler system where the inspector's test went through the window casing. That's been done. All is not here, but I've submitted the invoice. Tom, you signed off on it, so I believe that's been paid. They were there this past week. I believe they finished up today. And they removed all of the sashes from the half-round transom windows in the auditorium area. And they've taken those back to their shop to be restored and put in with the new insulated glass, ready to go back in. We also had a 90-foot lift, so we did some exploratory work on the stair towers, particularly to see what was under some of those panels, which I had never seen under them, and Joe, when he was alive, could never recall what was under there. So we pulled them apart, and it turns out there is some wood paneling under there. So my expectation is that when we get the final price on that final stage, which includes those stair towers, there's going to be some money involved there for window restoration. Wood restoration. But other than that, it's going well. The windows from Marvin, I've been told, are complete and that they are in storage somewhere in the state. They're here. So they're ready to go forward for everything that's in stage 2 that's already been approved. Tom, you came by today and put those last signatures on?
Yep.
Okay, so that's it. The contracts are done. They're ready to go. So yeah, the window project is moving along. We're in good shape on that.
So, Bill, any on the exploratory side on the stair towers, if there's any additional funds needed there, we have already set aside the funding for that. Am I correct?
I'm pretty certain, Tom, that we've carried enough contingency that we should be all set. And as I said, I believe that we'll be well within our budget to get this done.
Okay.
And we should have a solid number from them, I would say, within 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, so I guess my other question is, and Joe, maybe you can answer this as well. Whatever we allocated, we've allocated enough to cover all the other expenses we needed for the remainder of this fiscal year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions of Bill? No? All right, so Bill, here's my other question. Regarding the pointing of the building, or repointing of the building, which we haven't done in however long, correct?
120 years.
Right.
To our knowledge, it's never been done.
So what did Paul Monaco do with his company? Was that more just selective repair?
They cleaned it. They cleaned the exterior of the building, and they've done a couple of things. There was a granite lintel over a window on the basement level that was cracked all the way through that they replaced. They cleaned the entire exterior. And they've done some selective pointing in different areas. But the entire building has never been pointed. And I don't think it's ever been closely evaluated. I mean, Paul came forward and said, kind of generally that, yeah, you got to really look at this. You really need to take care of this and go through it. But there's never been like that deep evaluation to see exactly where it is and where it's at. So, I think before we think about that phase, that we're going to need to have someone, and I don't know who that might be. I don't know if we get an architect. I don't know. See, I hate to ask one of the contractors who may bid on the job to give us the evaluation, because
Yeah.
that's kind of like going into a dealership and saying, hey, do you think I need a new car?
So Bill, let me, a graduate of Tourtellotte years ago, his name's Peter Hamill. He owns a company called Trinity Group. And that's all they do is building restoration, repointing, waterproofing, caulking, you name it. And actually he's done a lot of projects with Cronenberger
Yeah.
in tandem, the two of them. And it totally didn't dawn on me until last week, because my company's building his brand new house in Pomfret. And he asked me, he says, hey, who's doing all the work up at Tourtellotte? And I just said, I didn't mention any names at that point. And then he goes, when was the last time that building was ever repointed? And I go, well, why do you ask? He goes, that's what my company does. And I went, oh my God, Pete, I totally went right over my head. So I'm going to give you his phone number, Bill, and contact. He has 6 crews that he runs all over the state, doing all the municipalities, all the municipal buildings everywhere. So
Tom, I mean, certainly his input is a good idea, but now counting him, we now have 3 contractors that have a direct connection with the building. So how do you decide? I think I'm almost leaning towards you have to have somebody independent look at it first, and this is only my opinion.
Oh, no, absolutely. I totally agree.
Because I've got Paul's 2 kids that are still doing 99% of the restoration work on that building.
Yeah.
And then we've got Cronenberger, who's done a great job for us.
Yeah.
And now we've got this other guy, so.
Nope,
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there. If, that's all that they do is repointing.
But I would certainly think it would be worthwhile to give him a call and have him come up and just kind of look around and give us an idea without actually coming forward to give us any kind of a number.
Exactly. Yep.
Tom, I could offer a real quick suggestion. The Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation has a new name, which I've forgotten right this moment, but they also have circuit riders who come out and can look at that. They're the ones who would help with the State Historic Preservation Office. That could get you 50% funding for it. So whatever the cost is, up to $100,000 plus a $20,000 feasibility grant, you could get to do that repointing on a dollar-to-dollar match. So you have access to a person who can give you consultancy for it, and you have access to the money. So just keep that in mind.
But do we have to have a state contract to do the work if we go through that kind of a grant?
You just need to have, if you go through the State Historic Preservation Office, you have to have certified people who do that type of work. And I'm not saying those are difficult certifications to get. We've had very good luck with them in the past.
And you may need to pay prevailing wage if there are state funds involved.
Correct.
So currently, right now, on this phase of the window project, we're not paying prevailing wage because the trust is not state funds. Those are private funds.
Okay,
Correct.
If we use something that's got state funds involved, but I mean, you have to weigh that out and see what the wash is.
Yep.
so hearing that, as a board, should we try to get estimates on what it would cost, at least bill through the independent contractors
Well,
and then
maybe we should,
explore?
I'm thinking maybe we should start with the State Preservation Board.
Mhm.
Or do we run both in tandem and see where they fall?
You would run afoul of the state if you try to get the contractors in prior to the RFP.
Because
So-
then the contractors will be negated from putting in a bid.
Gotcha.
Mhm. Start with that then, okay.
All right. Joe, do you have the contact or do we just go to the Connecticut Trust?
I'll send you the names of the Connecticut Trust and we can request them to come out. So
Okay.
I'll send that over to you.
All right, thank you.
Joe, that,
Wow.
they've changed their name to preservationct.org, is that?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, Bill, it looks like we have a new project to work on.
That's good, because I was getting a little bored.
Okay, one more question before we leave this topic, because I'm trying to take notes here. What was the company that did the selective pointing and the cleaning of the building, Bill?
Well, so
Holmes?
when they did the cleaning of the building,
Mhm.
it was, what was the name of Paul's company, Tom? Was it Monaco?
I think it was Monaco and Sons, I think.
Monaco and Sons. And then the selective pointing has been done by Empire Historical Restorations.
Okay,
And they're really all the same family, but
okay,
father passed away and this is the boy's company now. Well,
okay,
actually, the mom's company.
whatever. Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody have any other questions for Bill?
Nope.
All right. Orla, thank you for joining us tonight. I know we're really impeding upon your heritage and your major holiday.
Actually, it's a bigger holiday in the United States than it is in Ireland.
True.
It's-
It's a family day in Ireland because it's a national holiday. It's a day off work and, mostly families get together and,
Yeah.
younger
Well,
kids
I'm trying to look on your desk. I don't see the pint of Guinness there, so.
hiding. I'll be making up for it after the meeting's done.
All right, so,
So,
all right, so we have the update from Bill and we're pretty much we're in good financial status on all of the issues regarding the building right now that Bill's been working on, correct?
yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so let's move along to topic 2. And again, thank you for Tira and Brian joining the meeting tonight. All board members, I'm assuming, have seen the replies to our intended questions. And are there any questions at this time for Tira and Brian so they can answer them directly if we had any concerns? All right,
None from my side.
okay. Tira or Brian, do you have anything else to add that you'd like to speak?
A couple of minor things that have, minor but interesting things that have come up since I submitted that to you. Just this week, I was forwarded a letter from the Department of Revenue Services regarding a program that is that they operate called the Neighborhood Assistance Act program, what that enables is for municipalities and nonprofits to register certain projects with the department, which renders them eligible to receive private donations from companies and corporations, which then are converted to a tax credit. So, and there are two different levels at which that tax credit is offered, 60% and 100%. So to put that in context of this particular project, you could solicit donation, and it's pretty open-ended as well. You could solicit corporate donations for the rehab or the programming. The programming and most of what would be eligible refund would be a 60% tax credit. Anything in the rehab that was specific to energy efficiency or conservation, for example, replacement of windows, roofing, heating systems, would be a 100% tax credit. So they are able to treat it as a charitable donation and the credit, as it was explained to me the other day when I called to ask about it. So that's a piece of information that I did not have before, but which was very timely. And the other piece, which is more sort of a social capital piece, I've been involved completely coincidentally in a number of conversations really recently around some of the Reopen Connecticut forums. And it turns out there are several regional to us comparable incubator startups that have been put in place partly by people who are colleagues of mine in these development groups. So the brain pool that one would be able to pick in order to, move forward with the programming aspect is actually deeper than I initially thought. Also turns out that I have a friend and colleague from the Worcester area whom I knew previously was involved with setting up what they call the workshop, which is the Worcester shop, a work share and makerspace up there. I knew he was involved. I was picking his brain a little bit. It turns out he's not just involved, he sets up incubator spaces for a living and was pretty interested in this project, if it moves forward in providing some consultation.
So I guess here's a question. I don't know who has the answer to this, but what Tira just said in the beginning, would that apply to us if that's the choice that we wanted to pursue? Because are we technically declared a nonprofit?
As I understand it, and I've had one conversation with a gentleman at DRS just a few days ago, it is a town-owned property, and it would still be a municipal project, and municipal projects or nonprofit projects are eligible to be so declared. Obviously, that would need to be further clarified, but it seemed pretty cut and dried in our conversation, so I feel reasonably confident in that response.
Here in that conversation, was there any discussion regarding if they require seed money up front for this, or is it strictly grant funded?
Well, it's not a grant. It's not a grant. It's just a tax credit program. So once you have the project accepted by the Department of Revenue Services, it just goes sort of on their list of eligible projects to receive private donations. And as I said, from their point of view of eligibility, it was pretty open-ended. They said planning process, design, construction, implementation. So it was a pretty wide open field. It just needs to essentially be acknowledged.
All right, so, and Joe, please help me with this for a second as the past president. Have we ever taken private donations to or into the Tourtellotte Trust?
No.
So now to the group, does anybody know if there's any reason as to why we could not take private donations through the trust earmarked to a specific project?
We are registered for tax purposes with the state of Connecticut. We have our own EIN number with the federal government. We're registered for sales tax, and it needed the income tax. We have a Connecticut tax number, which was set up initially when the trust was set up, but has never been used. So that's just an elaborate version of saying, I don't see any reason why we can't collect it.
But could we, I guess, to try to keep it clean for accounting purposes, this would almost have to be a separate project that has its own separate funding, if that's the route that we choose. Not to be, combined with the Tourtellotte Trust itself, because that was clearly earmarked through the will specifically for a function. So I'm just wondering, are there any violations with us financially to set up kind of its own subsidiary trust for just that one building for donation purposes?
We end up having to go to the attorneys to get some clarification, so it's hard to give a yes or no right now.
Right. I don't see it, Tom. I don't see an issue with it. But one quick comment that's related to this that might help. That if we decide to use, let's say, historic preservation funds, right now there's a building boom going on in the state, and those coffers for historic preservation are being rebuilt very quickly. So every time a construction project goes on, a piece of it's taken and put into the fund. We know how to go access that money. So there might have been limitations to the funds previously. They are being built to a point where I don't want to say it's ours for the taking, but if you know the way through the meandering process, you can grab that money and cut the cost of this project by 50%, which is, taking a town asset and really building it up for half the money that you would normally have to spend. I just want to remind you that money is available, and if we don't grab it, another town will.
Okay, so, and again, this is not for or against the project, okay? I want to just make this clear.
Yep.
If we decided that we were going to move forward and be part of this project, whether it's seed money, all of it, whatever it is, do we have any funds available that we can do this and not set ourselves short on the future projects that we want to do, not knowing what the repointing might cost or whatever else? Because the way that I'm looking at it, I think we're probably a year and a half out to do anything financially, because of what we are trying to pay for now and what we already had on our docket to do possibly for next year.
And don't forget, the ADA compliance to get up into the Rascavage auditorium, all of that stuff.
Orla, do you?
I'd have to look and see what the fund is like at the moment, but I don't have that information right now.
Because Tira, if I remember, the total was like 250, 246, I think is what was being asked.
It's in that range, yep.
And then if
Well,
the fund,
I'm sorry, that's not what's being asked. That's the total estimate for rehab. The maximum ask I would propose for match grant funds from the trust would be 50%. So if costs can be lessened for a variety of reasons, either because, materials costs normalize, or you opt to phase it in ways that still make the master project feasible. So there are some ways that you can configure it, but the maximum would be 50% of the maximum rehab cost, which has been estimated between $240, $250.
all right, so maybe
So that's more doable, I think, Tom. I think, the initial total 50% up front would be a struggle to confirm right now, but something over time, up to a maximum of 50%, that's definitely more doable based on what I'm seeing for return each month.
Okay,
So even if we got in kind, which we're apt to do, I mean, a lot of, we could get like we did with the Teague building, we got a lot of in kind
Yeah.
help with that. So we're looking anywhere from 75,000 to 100,000.
It's probably a reasonable estimate.
Yeah, because we will get in kind people, and we'll get people that would help. I would assume,
Yeah, we'll definitely, and we might get a lot of materials too.
yeah, I'm sure we would. So, but we're still looking for, say the max would be, say the max we would be asking for would be $100,000 out of the trust fund.
so
My-
here's a,
But my question is, my real fear is, and you gave us a nice income, approximation of income and stuff. What is the call, or what is the demand for these office rentals in our area? That's my problem.
Well, I mean, in the area, we would have to do probably a particular study as a part of the planning process. I mean, if you read the full proposal, part of the programmatic piece, which is the piece I have done the most work to write grants for to date, is in fact a community engagement and public workshop process to make sure that however that center is set up, it most matches the needs and desires expressed by the neighborhood it is primarily to serve, which is that neighborhood there, where we have our highest levels of entrenched poverty, our worst unemployment rates. Micro entrepreneurship is a stepping stone for a lot of people to, scale up over time. The kinds of incubators that do crop up, there are a couple in Worcester, there's one in New Haven. The colleagues I was talking about before were operating out of Wyndham Willimantic and Norwich. So again, regional. That's the model that they're operating on. Start with the micro, get people to a place where they can learn certainly some basic business skills. And then I have suggested that we target a broader curriculum towards food system and agricultural startups because of where we are located and because that is a niche I believe we are well positioned to serve. But in any proposal that I put forth that is at the planning stage that involves any kind of workshopping or community element, I would always say you stay flexible to pivot to serve the needs that are most present. So do we know that there are employment needs in North Grosvenor-Dale? I think we do. And how do we best serve that? How do we best get the skills to people to be employable either on their own dime, so to speak, on their own business founding, or to make them better employees for other people? So I think that there is lots of room to adjust and alter the programming sort of on the fly as we go, but that's a part of planning and program design. We have an outline that I think is probably best suited to the community based on the feedback we have from prior events, but you narrow your focus as you go.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Tara, but my concern is that we have taxpayers in this town. We have town buildings already. We have municipal buildings already that they're not willing to support. We had to have the Historical Society buy the Ellen Larned. I mean, these are real historical buildings in our town that they're not willing to maintain. We can get the money to refurbish the building for a lot more than its market value. I will have, you know, and we'll put the money in and we'll bring this building back to code and to restore the building. But then the ongoing maintenance of this building, the town will not support it. Because, look at the Ellen, Joe, we had, the Historical Society had to buy the Ellen Larned Museum because the town refused to fix its roof.
That's correct. And
Now-
we did it twice. We did it 2 times.
Right, exactly. And I don't know, you know, I love the idea of the community gardens. I think that's wonderful. And the Riverside Gardens. I think there's a need for that, for this community, for that particular area of town. But I just can't get my head wrapped around putting this kind of money, whether it's only $100,000 to the trust. Maybe, maybe not, you know, but we do have other things that we need to do to the 1909 building that is truly a historical, architecturally historical, and emotionally historical, and to this town.
Sure, and I don't actually disagree with anything that you just said. Part of the reason that we're exploring the avenue through the trust is precisely what you yourself just raised, Kathleen, which is that the community has shown itself unwilling to provide funds to maintain its own properties. We already know that, and that is a legitimate point. So the trust is outside of that, and unlike any of the other buildings outside the 1909 building and this one, you know, the trust has no direct relationship, for example, with town hall or community fire. There is a direct relationship, obviously, between the original school building and, I would say, you know, through the family wills with this building as well. So the entire point is, in fact, to sidestep the unwillingness of the town to pay for its own needs, to have that source of seed money to get it undergoing. And then you have, once the building is rehabbed, there are a series of options. The optimal option is for the program to work as designed, become self-sustaining, including its own maintenance needs. And in a fully rehabbed building, your maintenance needs, you know, are not going to be to the level of even a fully rehabbed school, which has a certain kind of wear and tear. I mean, this is a much smaller structure with a much less intensive type of use. So the maintenance needs should be essentially custodial and light ongoing maintenance that any other, you know, brand new property would need. In a less optimal situation, you know, maybe the programming is designed kind of takes off, but not to the extent that you want, and you have to find an additional use, which is why, in answer to one of the questions, you know, what's the backup plan? I said, well, you know, you do have some municipal options that you could toss in there. And then the least desirable from the point of view of the historicity of the building and the community identity is, look, you can default to the idea of seeking relief from the AG from the conditions of the will and codicil, and say, look, we've done everything we can here. We just can't make it work the way we'd like it to. But now we have this building that we can use as an asset and sell to recoup our investment. So I think that there is no circumstance in pursuing this in which you are left sort of with your pants down, that you've always got options, and those options have levels of desirability, but all of them leave you in a better place than you started.
Okay, so given that, we could then try to recoup our you know, our investment. Have you sectioned off, because now you've created the community garden around this? Is there a way to section it from the community garden?
Well, you could subdivide the property if you had to do it that way.
All right.
I mean, we just rezoned the whole district. You can have an individual plot as small as 4,500 square feet there.
Okay.
So you would potentially be able to do that.
Okay, well, it could also tear the building down and make the whole thing a community garden.
You could do that. So you could certainly add that to the list of options. I mean, just from the point of view of somebody living in a neighborhood, I can say that I would rather see a rehabbed building than a torn down building.
Well, I'd put up
in
a
terms
pretty
of,
little garden shed and,
yeah, to have the property be useful at all, I think is
yeah, you need a
Is
nice little garden
ultimately
shed
your goal.
and, yeah, you'd put up a pretty little garden shed, or several little garden sheds, or a big, and for half the price of what you're telling me to put into a building that you couldn't sell for that kind of money in that area. But that's my opinion, and I'm going to stay out of it from now. I'm not going to war over this, but that just doesn't, to me, I don't know. But the areas you're talking about, these incubator, those are cities. We're not a city. You're talking Worcester, you're talking New Haven, you're talking, Hartford. We're not that demographics. My opinion.
Well, you still have a population that has high levels of unemployment. It is your most urbanized, densest district. We are making a lot of efforts across several commissions and committees to make this area more walkable, more economically viable. This would be an aspect of that would fit in with all of those other projects. I mean, to say one is not a city, by some measures, North Grosvenor-Dale does account itself as an urbanized area. Sometimes we call it a rural area. It depends on what kind of grant I'm pursuing and under whose guidelines. So those are very fungible terms. An urbanized environment, it certainly fits that in terms of it has public utilities available. Again, your densest district, you're going to be seeing an influx of population into that district regardless once that mill project is up and running.
I agree.
And, as I have asserted in several meetings on several topics, you can make a series of choices that give people moving in there, either they'd be moving into a building or they'd be moving into a town. I mean, there's plenty of people who move into a town because of where they can commute to, and they never set foot in the rest of the town. I did that for the first 2 years I lived here. I didn't know a single person who lived here, didn't care, went to work in Massachusetts, came back, and I couldn't have cared less if the town lived or died around me because it was not the direct, I had no direct connection. So as you form connections, you care more, right? Which I did come to do. You've got to but people do need a reason to care. And if we're not giving them a vibrant community in which they are located, it's like a pass-through. And what you don't want to be is just a pass-through, because that's going to make it even harder to sort of get out of that rut of, oh, poor little Thompson. Thompson can't afford to do anything. Nobody cares. Look at how, and those are currents that run through all kinds of conversations in town. And, I personally feel that it's my job to disrupt that kind of cycle. And this is one of the means by which I'm proposing to do that.
Yeah. Tyra, one of the things to consider is that you have a vibrancy mission in North Grosvenor-Dale. We have a school that needs more students, and you have a mill that we hope will be redeveloped, and that North Grosvenor-Dale Village needs vibrancy because it will have a direct connection to the Tourtellotte School. So we've tried to make that connection 4 ways to Sunday here. I don't know how many more ways we can say the same thing. If the town does get that mill restored and that downtown village has a building that fits with its character, I think we will bring families here and the town will flourish. What else can we say?
You're singing my song, Joe.
This is Rob. I had a question for, kind of along the same lines, but today, if a business were to come into town, where would they go? Who would welcome them? Where do they learn more about the town? Is all that residing in the town hall today?
I would say
I don't know if-
predominantly.
Tara, did everybody hear that? Okay, so what Rob was saying is if and when people do come to town, where do they go to understand about the town? Is it the town hall or where do they go? So Tara, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I did hear Rob's question, although you're right, he was very faint. I would say the town hall is a de facto hub right now, for sure. Some of these questions that Rob poses are things that we are taking up in EDC. In fact, Brian and I have to scoot in about 10 minutes here. And this is one of those things to try to make at least the online resources more robust for new people or for people trying to discover what is available, who is here. You know, they all work together. You can stumble on other resources right now, but it's just like that. It is more of a stumbling than an organized direction, you know, to new people. Our online presence, although better than it was 2, 3, 4 years ago, could still be bolstered. That's all stuff that falls under sort of EDC and branding and marketing, and of course the town hall staff as well. And we're getting there. I mean, we don't have marketing professionals on staff, so you know we get it done as we can.
Am I clearer now, Tara? Can you hear me better?
Better, yeah.
I took off my headset. I asked the question because as, you know, there were a number of items that were brought up, and in terms of the feedback from your report, the will and intention of the Tourtellotte family, the fact that it's a town building in desperate need of repair, and a lot of other items that were brought up tonight around the cost to do the rehab and having, you know, only a 50%, really a half price kind of investment into the building. But parking, and I agree with those items. I'm asking about the business side because I don't see where that exists today. And if we want to attract more business to town and better businesses to town, welcoming them would be a great first start. Reaching out, not just online. You used the word stumble. My experience moving to Putnam, they called me and welcomed me. I just think if part of this incubation can do those types of things, the people that don't really know where to go, they're either new or their business is new. It's hard to put a dollar value on that, right? How do you monetize that later and say the value's here? But they're doing some really great things in our border town in Putnam around business. Part of it is that reach out. I just wanted to add that I think there'd be a great opportunity to reach out to current businesses and also to new businesses and have a resource there.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent observation, Rob. And it's funny you mentioned Thompson. Charlene just forwarded me today some little news feature they had on Winnie. I guess that old ag co-op building is going to be, well, in this case, demolished, but rebuilt as a work share space for contractors. So, you know, sort of to Kathleen's point, you know, we don't have the market for that kind of thing. Putnam apparently believes that we do, and theirs is geared towards one aspect of the kind of work demographic that we serve, which is tradesmen. Again, I've proposed something that is slightly differently oriented, but again, in that sort of discovery process of workshopping and you know, making sure that the final programming meets the actual needs as opposed to the projected needs. Something like what Rob said could indeed be a part of the final structure, a change in emphasis of what the curricular offerings would be, Is it more work share? Is it more, learning oriented? I imagine that it is going to be some combination of certainly those two, but locating some of the functions that you would associate with a business association or a development corporation or commission. We have a commission here in town, not a corporation. Would certainly be appropriate. Would absolutely be appropriate.
If I can just add on to this, to Rob's question, in EDC, we have put together a welcome packet for not only new businesses, but old businesses as well. And I know that Brian Yacino has gone around and shaking people's hands and welcomed them to the town. Listen, Rob, we could do a better job, and we're working on that. And actually, I'm trying to strategize some sort of marketing plan for us. I put on my business hat, and I know, an EDC plan is not quite a business marketing plan, but we have engaged certain people to kind of help us strategize that, and meaning like offer information like, did you know about Thompson, right? Do you know our services? Do you know our history? Do you know our restaurants? Do you know our recreation? And then working with people like Last Green Valley to get that word out, to draw people in. And this 65 Main could just be a part of that growing opportunity. And it is on our radar screen. So I just wanted to add that.
No, thank you for that, Brian. And my question wasn't to be critical. We can always do better. But I think having a brick and mortar and a name on the door goes a long way. I mean,
Absolutely.
Again, not to compare us to Putnam, but if you go into Putnam, I know exactly where to go and who to speak to. And they have an office, and they smile when you walk in, and you ask them questions, and they track things down for you.
Sure. I think the
It
EDC
certainly
is
wasn't
taking,
critical, but having an address would really help. Right?
yeah, I don't mean to take anything away from the town. I think EDC is starting to become that door, and then having that name on the door to say welcome. So I feel the movement in that commission.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Tara or Brian? All right, Brian, I have.
Tom, just a quick comment. I mean, great job on the response.
Yeah.
Like the initiative or don't like the initiative, you got to like the thoroughness of answering the questions and putting it together. It was very, very well done.
I think we feel like there's a lot of good momentum in town. Obviously, our heart and soul went into this presentation. We feel like there's great works in progress with the river mill, the sidewalks, the agricultural, and just other missions in town that we're just trying to stir it up and get things moving in a right direction. And I know you got to take care of the school. I can appreciate that. There's been talk about the track replacement, and I'm ready to get involved in that. I've already had subs come down and take a look at that, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I'm just really appreciative of this consideration, and I'll do everything that I can as a citizen of this town to give my knowledge in construction and keep things moving in a positive direction. So just wanted to make that noted.
Brian, I have one question on the quotes that were received back. I mean, as you're in construction and myself, I mean, we've seen a 30 to 50% increase on, the cost of goods, materials, et cetera.
Yep.
Do you anticipate any other increases? I mean, again, listen, I understand.
Yeah.
Right now, even when we quote something out, it changes weekly.
Sure.
So, I mean, do you think that quote is a little bit light?
Listen, I put that together, Tom. I think it was conservative because I'm really hoping that people in town get involved. We do get discounts and stuff like that. So
Yep.
I feel very confident. I wouldn't present it to you guys if I didn't have that confidence that we were, excuse my language, going to get screwed on it. I mean, I'd only be hurting the town, right? So, and I live here, so I don't want to do that. So
Yep.
I feel very confident in that number, and I think we could probably do a little bit better. Is there risk? Of course there is. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's already known. Yes, the price of wood, metal, things like that have, yes, skyrocketed. But I also, on the flip side of that coin, I receive a lot of subcontractor quotes, I think people are unsure about the future with certain funding sources. And I know that my subs are taking on work for cheaper prices because they want to keep their people busy.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like there's a flip side to that coin, but I feel confident in the 250 number that I presented to you guys.
All right, any other board comments? Replies, anything? All right, Amy, anything?
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm in the catering. We're packaging up some food.
No, that's totally fine. I
So
just
I'm
didn't know
still
if you had-
active and listening. But
No,
what was your
that-
question?
I just asked if you had any questions that you wanted or any suggestions before we bring this to the board.
You know, I'm lined up with Kathleen. Everything that Kathleen said was everything that I've been thinking. And I was just trying to give everybody the opportunity to speak so that I could just hear everybody's thoughts. But
Yep.
at this point, Kathleen, everything Kathleen said is my line of thinking.
Okay. So seeing how on the meeting agenda, I don't believe there was a specific call out for a vote. So we would be in violation if we voted on this tonight. Am I correct on that? I believe,
I would not, I'm not familiar with why we could not vote. We can vote.
No,
Well,
it's
I
a
don't-
Joe, it's a special meeting
Yep.
and we cannot add an item to the agenda.
Why
Yeah,
wasn't it on the agenda?
that might have been my fault. And again, I apologize, but I think when I suggested the meeting, and it just dawned on me right now that we cannot vote according to Robert's rules and FOI and all that. It has to be on the agenda.
Mhm.
And I apologize to everybody because now we would have to do another meet and greet and just do the vote. And I apologize again, being new to this aspect of all of that.
I do have to scoot in a minute because I have to start the EDC meeting as a host. I will
Okay.
say I have no objection to coming into to attending another special meeting if to answer any last minute questions, to do another vote. I will point out one more thing, which is I do have a partially completed application to the USDA Rural Business Development Grant Program, which is due at the end of this month. I cannot proceed with that unless the Board of Selectmen adopts a resolution essentially saying, okay, go ahead and apply for the grant. So I think that the vote of this trust would be the logical thing that would need to happen in order for the Board of Selectmen essentially not to feel that there was no source of match funding, because we know it's not coming from the town. So if it does need to be another special meeting scheduled, I would just ask that it sort of be in relatively short order so that I could have the time to get that done.
So Tara, and again, I apologize, but my next step was going to be, is everybody available Monday night on the 22nd at 6 p.m. so we can just cast a vote? Because that would give us enough time to, sorry, Orla, go ahead.
So if there's no reason why we can't maybe have it during the day on Friday, I mean, I know you guys are working, people like yourself who's out in the field. Is it possible we could have it quickly on Friday evening? If it's 5 in the evening?
I can do Friday, but I believe we have to have the agenda posted. It's got to be
4 hours beforehand.
right, which is why, that's what I'm trying to think.
I can't do Friday, but Monday is fine by me.
Guys, I have to duck out. Brian, would you just
Okay.
stay until they're done and then come into EDC?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
There's-
Monday's
so,
good.
Monday's good for Joe, good Orla.
I'm just checking my calendar here.
All right, Rob,
I'm good, Tom. Yes, Monday's good.
Amy,
Yep, Monday's good as long as it's 6 o'clock because PZC is at 7.
yep. Kathleen?
Yeah, I'm fine. 6 PM. It's only gonna take 10 minutes, right?
Right, Melinda?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay,
Pretty sure I'm gonna just double check and making sure there isn't something else.
all right,
Yep, we're good.
Okay,
all right. Kathleen, can you get that on an agenda? We'll get that posted.
and all you want on the agenda is to vote on the trust
Yep, the 65 Main Street proposal.
proposal for the trust to fund 50% of,
Well, I
Right.
guess that would have to be determined that night. If somebody makes a motion for
Okay.
whatever that motion would
okay,
be,
65, okay, 65 main proposal. Okay,
right?
okay.
Joe, in your work with getting state grants, if we were to go the route of, say we went for a state grant, we got state funding, we start through the historical grant or whatever that was.
Yep.
Once we did all the work and say the process, say the building, it didn't pan out to what it was gonna be, are we held to any time limits if we were to go ahead and sell that building?
The only stipulation is that they put a lien on the building, that it has to maintain its character for a certain number of years. It's either 10 or 15 years if you accept the funds. So if it's a church, for example, it has to stay as a church or in some similar fashion in its building structure, meaning you can't tear it down, throw the steeple away and that type of thing. So it has to stay physically intact. You can do other things with it, but it can't be physically modified.
I would assume if you did any for sale, sold the building, I would imagine you'd have to pay back the funds with some kind of a penalty.
If they were going to modify it, the new owner would just have to say they have to live out the lien until it expires, and then they can, put a steeple on it or whatever else they want. They can't
Okay.
modify the function structure.
Yeah, okay. All right,
So it can change ownership, Joe, but you can't negate the obligation when the money.
Correct.
Yeah.
all right. Does anybody else have any other questions on this before we meet on Monday? No? All right, again, Brian, thank you very much. That was the reply, I don't think I've ever had a reply like that before in all my 30 years in cosmetic sales around this world.
Thank you very much, and Tara, and tell
Yeah,
Tara
sure.
thank her very much.
No,
It was
our pleasure. Thanks for the consideration, everyone, really.
great.
All right, hearing that, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. Yeah, my Guinness is waiting for me.
I was just gonna say, I don't drink, but you guys can drink them for me. But we have a motion from Melinda, seconded by Kathleen, Joe, Orla, everybody. All in favor, please say aye.
Yeah.
Opposed? Any nays? No abstentions? Everybody, happy St. Patty's Day.
St. Patty's Day. Good night, guys.
Call an Uber.
Good night.
Home.
Good night.